Okay, you should have solved these 4 problems, so let's see how you did. Starting with number 1, 1 1/4 times 3 2/3. So, as you have learned, you cannot multiply right now a mixed number by a mixed number. They have to be improper fractions. So that is always your first step. Change them into improper. Something that I taught my kids is a little saying called "Make Texas Mad," because I'm from Texas. So the rest of you might just do it like the video said, which is essentially the same thing. So what you do is take the whole number, multiply by the denominator, and then you take that answer and add it to the numerator. So it looks like the abbreviation for Texas. So 1 times 4, and then plus 1 is the work you do to give you your numerator. So 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and then your denominator always stays the same. So 1 1/4 is the same as 5/4. It's just a different form. Moving on to our next mixed number is 3 2/3. So if we make Texas mad, 3 times 3 is 9. And then we add the 2. 9 plus 2 is 11. That is our numerator. Denominator stays the same. So essentially, we made a new math problem. We now have an improper fraction times an improper fraction. So once we have a fraction by a fraction, we say top times top, bottom times bottom. So you just multiply across. 5 times 11 is 55. Bottom times bottom, 4 times 3 is 12. However, we cannot leave our answer like this because this is an improper fraction. So we need to read this as a division problem in order to get our mixed number answer. So 55 divided by 12 is what we need to solve. And I'm going to do that over here off to the side. So 55 divided by 12. Numerator always goes inside the house. Denominator always goes outside the house. So 12 cannot go into 5, but it can go into 55 4 times. If you have a multiplication chart, that would come in handy for you right now. So I would be looking at your multiplication chart if you have one. 12 times 4 is 48. So then we subtract, and that's going to give us a remainder of 7. So now we take this and write it as a mixed number. So 55 twelfths as a mixed number is going to be 4 wholes and 7 twelfths. So 12 can go into 55 4 whole times. That's where our whole number comes from. The remainder is 7, so that becomes your numerator, and then denominator always stays the same. So the very last thing you have to ask yourself is if this answer can be simplified. Well, 7 and 12 do not share any common factors other than 1, so that tells you that it is already simplified. So that is our final answer, 4 and 7 twelfths. Moving on to number 2, we have 4 1/2 times 2 3/4. So the first step is going to be the same. We don't want mixed numbers. We want improper fractions in order to be able to do top times top, bottom times bottom. So let's work on changing them to improper fractions first. If we make Texas mad, 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So 9 is our numerator. 2 is our denominator because it stays the same. Moving on to our second mixed number. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. And then denominator stays the same. So this must be done before you actually start multiplying the fractions. Now we can do top times top, bottom times bottom. So numerator times numerator, 9 times 11 is 99. Bottom times bottom, denominator times denominator, 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so once again, this is an improper fraction. You would not see this as an answer choice. You have to convert that to proper form, which it's going to be a mixed number. So this means 99 divided by 8. So you should have done the same step on your notebook paper. If you haven't, I would write this down as I'm doing it so you have it for your notes. So 8 goes into 9 one time. 1 times 8 is 8. When we subtract, we get 1. We bring down the 9. So now we have 19. And then I repeat the steps. 8 fits into 19 2 times. 8 times 2 is 16. I subtract and get 3. So 3 is my remainder. So it looks like the answer to this division problem is 12 remainder 3, but we use that to write our mixed number. 12 wholes. We had 3 left over, and then 8 is our denominator. Denominator just stays the same. So last thing you have to ask yourself is if 3/8 can be simplified. Well, 3 and 8 don't share any common factors other than 1. So we are finished. 12 and 3/8 is the product to this multiplication problem. Okay, moving on to number 3. The numbers are getting a little bit bigger. 6 2/5 times 3 1/2. So we will work on changing them to improper fractions first. Make Texas mad. The reason why we say make Texas mad is mad, if you think about the spelling of the word mad, M-A-D, it is the steps to changing the mixed number to an improper fraction. The M stands for multiply. That's what you do first. So 6 times 5 is 30. A stands for add. That's your second step. So we add the numerator. 30 plus 2 is 32. And then D stands for denominator. Denominator stays the same. So it's multiply, add, denominator stays the same. So 32/5 is our improper fraction. Times, let's do the same thing with our second mixed number, 3 1/2. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So 7 is our numerator, denominator stays the same. So now we are ready to multiply. Top times top. Okay, so 32 times 7, that is not math I expect you to be able to do in your head. So you should have went off to the side on your paper and done that multiplication. So 2 times 7 is 14. Carry the 1. 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 2 is 22. So we have 224 as our numerator. And then bottom times bottom, 5 times 2 is 10. So this is improper. We need to now divide this out to get our mixed number. And like I said, the numbers are getting a little bit bigger. So that does mean it might be a little bit harder. So let's work through this. 10 does not fit into 2, but it does fit into 22 2 times. So 10 times 2 is 20. You subtract and get 2, bring down the 4. 10 fits into 24 2 times again. 10 times 2 is 20. Whoops, that's a 0. and then we subtract and get 4. So 22 remainder 4. So 22 is our whole number. The remainder of 4 is our numerator, and then denominator stays the same. Okay, so then you ask yourself, well, can 4/10 be simplified further? It can. So if you think of the factors of 4, there's 1 times 4, but there's also 2 times 2, right? Okay, well, if you think of the factors of 10, there's 1 times 10 equals 10, but 2 times 5 also equals 10. So they have a 2 in common. That is a factor they have in common, which means you can divide both the numerator and denominator by 2. You always have to divide by the same number when you're simplifying. So our final answer is going to be the 22 wholes. That's not going to change. When you simplify, you're only simplifying the fraction. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then 10 divided by 2 is 5. So the final answer is 22 2/5. So for example, if you had this on an exit ticket and you got 22 4/10, you're not going to see that as an answer choice because it has to be simplified still. So don't think you did something wrong if you don't immediately see the answer that you got. Always ask yourself if it can be simplified. So this right here would be the answer you are expected to pick. Moving on to the last one. Okay, 3 2/3 times 5 1/4. So let's make Texas mad for both of these. You always want to show the times sign and the plus sign. Okay, so 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. 11 is the numerator. Denominator stays the same, 11/3. 5 times 4 is 20. Plus 1 is 21. Denominator stays the same, 4. Okay, you are ready to multiply now. Top times top, 11 times 21. Again, that's not math you should be able to just calculate in your head probably. So come out to the side and show the work. 21 times 11 is going to come out to 231. And then bottom times bottom, 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, improper fraction. So we got to do the division. We got to do the work. 231 divided by 12. 12 doesn't fit into 2, but it does fit into 23 one time. 12 times 1 is 12. You subtract and get 1. 3 minus 2 is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. So you subtract and get 11, and then you got to bring down the 1. So we have 111. So you got to figure out how many 12s fit into 111. You can either guess and check, or you can skip count. You can keep adding 12s until you get as close to 111 as you can. It is going to fit 9 times. 12 times 9 is 108. So then when you subtract, you get a remainder of 3. So 19 remainder 3. We're going to use that to write our mixed number. 19 is our whole. 3 is our remainder. 12 is our denominator because it stays the same. So you would not see this answer on a test or an exit ticket because it is not simplified all the way. So you have to think of a factor that 3 and 12 have in common. You cannot divide by 2 because 2 does go into 12, but it doesn't fit into 3 evenly. However, 3 fits into 12 evenly. So that means you can divide both by 3. So final answer, whole number doesn't change. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So final answer is going to be 19 1/4. And there you go. Hopefully you did okay and you are ready to now go to Google Classroom and take the exit ticket. If you feel like you need to watch the video again or watch Mr. J's video again, you can do that until you have complete understanding and you feel confident in taking the exit ticket. Please make sure you now take a picture of your work and upload it before you turn this back in to Google Classroom and take the exit ticket. Bye for now.